Good morning, everyone. Buenos días o buenas tardes a todos y todas. I'm Miriam Cuccu. I'm a pedagogue and a PhD student of University of Macerata in Italy. And first of all, I want to thank for the opportunity to give my contribution to CESPE 2023 and also to be part of the research team of CESPE Italia. Today, I'm presenting my contribution that is entitled Education in Color, Participatory Approaches for Research Grounded in Local Communities. This is the presentation of a book that I wrote in 2022. Here you can see the details of the publication, the publisher, the year, and also the link of the publisher with the cover. The book retraces the research conducted with the TICAS project, which is an European project focusing on the artistic workshop carried out in kindergarten and primary schools in Italy and Kenya, where visual languages are explored in cooperative ways thanks to a participatory approach and a cross-cultural perspective. As you can see, the partners in the TICAS project were from different countries of Europe and also from Africa in Kenya. And the aim of the project was researching on visual languages' influence on people and visual communication in urban spaces. Inside this project, there was also a part in the educational field that was about artistic workshop in which visual languages were considered as a pedagogical resource, a vehicle of creativity, of participation, and cooperative learning. This is an overview of how is considered the artistic tool, and first of all, the encounter between art and education, because this encounter cannot happen just through an execution, because it is necessary to design a space in which the child can interact with the environment thanks to meaningful learning experiences that involved all the body, the mind, and the heart. The workshop in this way can give space to the construction of knowledge rather than its reproduction, where children can put in place competencies and generate cooperative peer-to-peer relationships, a place in which to train and develop logical and creative itineraries and to explore verbal and non-verbal languages in order to find and to discover commonalities and differences. Starting from this perspective, the research team of TICAS project designed a cycle of workshops aimed at children of kindergarten in Italy and primary schools in Kenya to promote imagination, to promote co-construction of knowledge through the exploration of visual languages with an intercultural perspective. And in this experience, I was involved since the beginning in 2018, when I was a student of the Master in Education, and also in 2019. And in that period, I was involved as a tutor in the Italian experience. Then, when I decided to write my thesis of the Master about that experience, I decided to move to Kenya for a mobility abroad, thanks to a competition announcement of my university. And so I had the chance to see both of the experiences till 2021. Then the collaboration with the Kenyan schools are still in progress, but the book stops till 2021 experience. Since, as I told before, the actions in the schools and in kindergarten were located both in Italy and in Kenya, the variables of local communities opened up flexible designs and nonlinear trajectories, constantly listening to the peculiarity of the territories. Here you can see two different corners. The first one is inside the kindergarten in Italy, and the second one is in a primary school in Kenya. This is just to show you through the image of the context the differences that you can meet during a research in different cultural contexts, where the spaces are influenced by the culture, by educational practices, social conventions, by, of course, the people, children and adults that inhabit the context, by their knowledge, their skills, their experiences, thoughts and emotions, and spaces practices can be familiar or unfamiliar according to the culture. There are strengths, there are challenges, and this is required, of course, an ongoing design. And also materials can be accessible or less accessible according to the context, trying to choose those that are more sustainable and that can be known or unknown in order to discover new things, or to discover different way to use the known materials. This is why it was really important to create a research path that is not stuck in what is already planned, but that is capable to be flexible and to be enriched by the dialogues among all participants, because we are inside different contexts that are heterogeneous and that are complex. This is why the objective of the book is to give an answer to some questions. And the questions are how to design artistic workshop grounded in local communities and at the same time preserving the pedagogical objectives. Which elements of the workshop were maintained in Italy and Kenya and which ones were adapted? What fundamental postures the researcher should keep in the field? This is why the book retraced the experience in order to reflect on practices at school, in order to reconstruct the design cycle, to highlight educational cultures, and in closing to present 4 pillars which are relevant to design artistic workshop in different cultural contexts with a participatory approach. The methodology behind the research is a qualitative paradigm, and it referred of the action research because participants are as important as the researcher to create knowledge and plan action to improve the reality. It referred also to arts-based research because the research team used arts to understand participants and researchers' experience and for a social change. And the grounded theory because the research team try to understand the context starting from the interpretation of the people and not from a theory of the researcher, with also a micropedagogical gaze. Micropedagogy is Demetrius' definition. He's a pedagogue, and it's not about a small pedagogy or a small research. Rather, is a pedagogy that of something that is directly observable, that reveals bonds of the parts. And it's a habit of paying attention of aspects that are only revealed by zooming in on them. So after the methodology, I will share the steps, because every workshop has began with the step of plan, then act and observe, and then the reflect. So it's like a spiral that involved all the steps of the workshop, and then thanks to data collection of every workshop, we were able to redesign another cycle of workshop according to the evidence that we collected. So during the plan step, it was really important to listen the needs and highlighting strengths of local communities in order to prefigure changes and defining objectives and co-design action strategies. Starting from this step, we involved both teachers and headmasters, and we try to find an adequate time to stay together, to take care of the relationships in order to start from the beginning to create a co-design action, in order to then stay in the situation during the action with an active and reflective posture, and to collect data during the implementation. And then moving to the last step, the reflection, the final reflection, in which the group, the research group, together with the teachers and with all the participants, we were able to reflect on evidence, to share feedback in order to redesign or to maintain what was better to maintain, and to give value to all participants' perspectives through plural evaluations. In this slide, you can see sort of timeline starting from the first workshop in 2018 in Italy till the fourth workshop in 2021 in Kenya. As you can see also from the pictures, the workshop has changed during the year according to the data collection and to the dynamics that we as a research team observed together with the teacher. So the first experimentation was mostly about an inclusive narration using silent books and with also an individual creative reworking. Then you can see that starting from Kenya in 2018, we gave space also to the atelier, so to the artistic workshop that was maintained also in 2021 and 2021. In 2019 and in 2021, where atelier were maintained instead of narration, because we decided, according to the dynamics that we observed to the children, to give more space to the artistic production of the children. We involved in Italy from 80 to 100 children in kindergarten, while in Kenya the number of children and teens were higher. We are talking about from 352 children to 486. And also the evaluation tools have changed during the experimentations because also the setting changed. So we moved from structured and also participant observation to participant observation because the setting was more dynamic. And we gave value also to the data collection in different way, using also arts, using paintings, using pictures, in order to collect the different aspects and the characteristics of the workshop in different way, using also different languages. The experiences from 2018 to 2021 in the book were then analyzed in different categories that are under two main topics. The first one is about the dynamics, the relationship, inclusion, participation, sharing among all participants. The second one is more about the arts, the tools, the artistic tools, and how it can activate imagination, creativity, and experimentation. Categorizing all the aspects of the workshop was useful to define the characteristic of the experiences and also to trace the evolution of some elements. We start from cooperative dynamics, and we realized that the relationship, cooperative relationship among peers were enhanced by a cooperative setting using local strengths, in which the researcher was both an observer and also a facilitator of the dynamics among peers. Exhibitions and events were organized in order to involve also the community, and thanks to the participatory approach, it was also possible to maintain and to create long-term educational alliances. The children had the chance to share at the beginning a space in which to listen and co-create a story together, and in the second moment to directly product together artistic painting materials, and moving from an individual to a common creative reworking using materials for small groups, and where the researcher was a mediator to the possible conflict that can happen during the manage of the materials. The inclusive narration at the beginning was most connected to the narration of silent books, and then in the second moment it was more connected with the co-creation of images in order to then narrate stories starting from the images that children produced. About the visual language and also the sound, we found that we moved from proposed images to productive images and sounds, and the researcher encourages creative interpretation of languages, trying to give space to their ideas, to their imagination, to their creativity, by exploring materials, materials that were sustainable and structured in order to choose the tools that can be used in different ways, also according to the creativity of the participants, encouraging free exploration and supporting familiarization process of some materials that could be unknown or known according to the previous experience of the participants. In this section, I will share with you some aspects that we found during the experience that are more about the micro pedagogy that I told you before, mostly connected with the cooperative dynamics among children with different age, and also among teachers and students, and among teachers with different expertise. First of all, the children experienced the sharing a common sheet of paper, and also the welcome acceptance of the other coloring alongside them, and to color parts of the body, sharing one's own emotions, not only the space. Over time, different forms of autonomy emerged, with the younger children helped and supported by the older ones. Along the way, there was also openness to dialogue and the acceptance of stories and characters from one's own to others' imagination. In Kenya, doing together between teachers and students generated also an exchange of interactions and impressions, moving from a relationship based on authority to a new one nourished by a shared learning process, because the setting has changed and also the relationship among adults and children. Moreover, the coexistence of teachers with different expertise and years of experience promoted a reflexivity that accompanied the design circle, reactivating skills and highlighting their generativity. Of course, the presence of the teachers also helped to mediate the encounter with the researchers, because we represented the other, white and foreign, and because this encounter was before rarely experienced as a contact of proximity. Also, the adaptation of the atelier and the choices connected with this adaptation were really shared in a co-design process. And the adaptation was connected to the different environment and was motivated by the intention to highlight strengths and overcome criticalities, such as numerical ratios, class size, lighting, type of desks. In agreement with the teacher, the workshops were located outdoor, or alternatively, working groups were arranged in the classroom by modifying the indoor setting. In Kenya, one big challenge was also the linguistic mediation, because we had different languages, and thanks to teachers or older students, the linguistic mediation was sometimes fundamental for a faster communication due to some unpredictable aspects, such as the low voice timbre of the children. However, gradually, curiosity of each other's mother tongues also emerged, which generated numerous requests for translation of commonly terms into Italian and Kiswahili. In closing, I show you the 4 relevant pillars that, after the retrace of the experience, were significant to design a workshop grounded in local communities with a participatory approach. The first one is centrality of childhoods. It means to allow children to express their creative potential according to their own peculiarities, considering the socio-cultural frameworks that they inhabit. The second one is valorization of local peculiarities and resources, in order to redesign the setting between resources and criticalities of the environment. In this way, the cooperative character was maintained in a variety of space. Meaningful experience is also an important pillar, because to have a meaningful experience of the art through a non-prescriptive exploration of colors was really important to respect the children's time and their interpretations of visual languages. And last but not least, the researcher's posture and also the adult's posture, the teacher's posture, a non-intrusive adult who respects the inner world of the children and offers learning opportunities without substituting for them, able to delegate his or her authority. Some reflections in closing, because such results would not have been possible without a participatory approach in the co-design among teachers and researchers, which generated cooperative actions based on participants' skills and identities. These elements made it possible to initiate intercultural dialogues with multiple languages grounded in local peculiarities. This is why it's really important to adopt an intercultural perspective that make the educational experience more challenging and complex, but also rich in potential and possibilities. So, designing intercultural interventions requires a critical and situated posture to promote dialogue between differences involving teachers, families, and researchers in community-based educational paths. Following an intercultural approach, therefore, means learning to be in the situation, to decentralize, to take care of a problem posing education, being aware that prefiguring educational actions can only take place by sharing plural gazes and competencies between thinking, reflecting, and doing together. These are my references, and thank you for your attention. Gracias por tu atención.